So, arguably one of the most hotly debated topics in the fitness and health industry at the moment. Low carb or low fat, which is better? Now this has almost become like a team sport, and it's actually quite funny sometimes watching some of the debates about it, which is even funnier when you actually look at the research and it shows that basically neither is better. Low carb works, low fat works, and everything in between works. And it essentially comes down to personal preference. But, don't take my word for it. Let's have a look at some of the research. Now, obviously, for obvious reasons, I'm going to be doing a bit of reading here because my memory is good, but not quite that good. So that's how I've got a few. So, first of all, Sartorius et al., which, by the way, is one of the best names I've ever heard. But anyway, does high carbohydrate intake lead to increased risk of obesity? Which was a review and meta-analysis, which basically they came to the conclusion that based on this current study, it cannot be concluded that a high-carb diet or increased percentage of total energy intake in the form of carbohydrates increases the odds of obesity. Okay, so let's move on. Overweight and diabetes prevention is a low-carb, high-fat diet recommendable by Fred Browns. They basically came to the conclusion that any diet type resulting in reduced energy intake will result in weight loss and related favourable metabolic and functional changes. And they also went on to say that lifestyle intervention in people at high risk of developing type 2 diabetes while maintaining a relative carbohydrate-rich diet results in long-term prevention of progression to type 2 diabetes and is generally seen as safe. Next, we have comparison of weight loss diets with different compositions of fat, protein and carbohydrates by Sachs et al. They came to the conclusion that reduced calorie diets result in clinically meaningful weight loss regardless of which macronutrients they emphasise. Next, we have the International Society of Sports Nutrition Position Stand Diets and Body Composition by Alan Aragon et al. They came to a lot of conclusions, but one that I'll point out is that a wide range of dietary approaches, low fat to low carb / ketogenic, and all points in between, can be similarly effective for improving body composition. To date, no controlled inpatient isocaloric diet comparison where protein is matched between groups has reported a clinically meaningful fat loss or thermic advantage to the low carb or keto diet. And they also went on to say that this basically invalidates the carbohydrate insulin hypotheses of obesity, which is a whole other topic for another time. But just point that out while we're here. Next one is One Strike Against Low Carb Diets by Roberts et al., which referred to the Kevin Hall paper, and they basically came to the conclusion that low carbohydrate diets did not cause greater body fat loss. And finally, weight loss on low fat versus low carb diets by insulin resistance status among overweight adults and adults with obesity by Gardner et al. Now this one was particularly interesting because it's actually looked at insulin resistance status, and there was basically no everybody lost weight. There was substantial weight loss was achieved overall, but a significant diet times insulin resistance status interaction was not observed. So basically, even people with insulin resistance managed to lose 7 kilograms whilst eating a diet comprised of 57% carbohydrates. Now, that is quite interesting. And just to put that into context, for the average 80 kilogram sedentary male, that would be over 300 grams of carbs a day. And obviously it's very generic, but most people will say a generic low carb is 150 grams or less. And again, that's just interesting because it actually looked at insulin resistance, so they still managed to lose a significant amount of weight with 57% carbohydrates. So that being said, what can we take from this? Because even though you present all of this research, you'll get, people who have lost a significant amount of weight on low carb and keto, and they absolutely say it's the only way to do it. You'll get vegans and vegetarians who basically say they only eat carbs. You'll get people who go to the gym all the time and eat 500 grams of carbs a day and lose weight. And I think this sort of observational data is almost, obviously it basically goes along with what the research says, and it just shows that everything works. They all work. You know, everything from low to high and everything in between, which I think is probably the best conclusion that you could ever come to, and that it could have come to, because basically what it says is that, you know, health conditions aside, for the vast majority of it, it makes no difference. You know, first of all, what matters is your food amount, then set your protein, and then what you do with carbs and fat is up to you. Do what you prefer. Which, like I say, I think is great. If you like carbs, eat some. If you're not really bothered by them, don't eat as many. You know, overall, what matters is adherence. So set them at the level that you're most likely to be able to stick to on a consistent basis, okay? And, you know, like I say, all diets work. They all work in the same principle, in that they could create a negative energy balance and they promote sort of the consumption of whole, minimally processed foods. The slight differences between them all is just personal preference. It's a little bit more fat, it's a little bit less carbs, essentially. But it doesn't matter. Which, like I say, I think is great, because it gets rid of this whole, team low carb versus team high carb, because they all work. Just pick the one that works better for you. Okay? So, there's a video for that, guys. Hopefully you got some value from that. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, share, like, love, haha, wow, always appreciate it, and it sends the video out to more people, which is always my goal. Have a fantastic evening, and I shall see you on the next video.